Hey, Tim Sykes here. I hope you're having a good weekend. There are a lot of runners in this market right now, and it's actually pretty amazing. But I do want to focus on MMTLP because it really encapsulates, the whole seven-step framework that I teach. It was a supernova on the way up. It's acting like a supernova on the way down. You have promoters involved. You got short sellers involved. You got brainwashed newbies involved. It's really, the perfect example for teaching purposes. Because, this is why I teach. I hate misinformation. I hate seeing, newbies just blow up and lose so much money. And this is what's happening right now. And it pisses me off. This is a big part of the reason why I began teaching, because my blood boils when I see misinformation and I see wasted money, unnecessary losses due to, promoter brainwashing. So let me just get into it. I've made about $4,000 on this. The beauty of showing every single one of my trades publicly, you can see all my trades on MMTLP. No huge trades because it's a little higher price than I prefer and it's not as liquid as I like. But I've only gone long, okay? I know that there's these conspiracy theories where they're like, oh, you're talking smack about it. You have to be shorting it. I have never shorted MMTLP. In fact, GTII, which I'll show you has a similar pattern, is pretty much the only stock I've shorted all year long, other than Robinhood, because I think that they're just an evil company. And I actually lost on my Robinhood short. But I have not shorted any MMTLP. I'm not talking smack about it. I'm saying that it fits the 7-step framework to a T. I will link this blog post. You should learn this framework. I've been using it for years. It's crazy that it still works to a T, but it describes every step in these penny stock promos. And promoters and brainwashed newbies always try to say, no, this stock doesn't apply. This isn't a promo, blah, 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 blah. Literally thousands of examples. None of them have ever veered from the overall framework. And it's crazy to me how well it works. And again, you can go long, you can go short. For me, I don't personally like going short anymore. I've made millions doing that in the past. Now it's very crowded niche. I think it's stressful. The squeezes are even bigger, as MMTLP proves, and GTII proved. I don't know what you prefer. I'm actually curious. Leave a comment below. Do you like going long? Do you like going short? Do you like going long the 1, 2, 3? Do you like shorting the number 4? Do you like dip buying the number 5? Do you like shorting the number 6 or the number 7? There's a whole process to this framework. And don't feel bad if you're liking any of these numbers. If you like going long and short, fantastic. Leave a comment. Let me know what you like. Just understand shorting is more dangerous lately because you have, more liquidity in the overall market ever since the pandemic, and the squeezes are a little more insane. So I personally just like going long. So some people say, Tim, why are you talking smack about MMTLP if you're just going long? I'm not talking smack. I'm just explaining what this is. And brainwash newbies and bots on Twitter make it seem like this is a, company that's going to go to thousands of dollars a share. If you look at some of the biggest tweets, like it's halted right now. FINRA halted it because it's been crashing. They have this whole spinoff and there's, it gets a little technical if you read the SEC filings. But in 2 days before it's halted, it basically crashed from the 9s to the 2s. It had that one big squeeze day when they had the FINRA news. Shout out to Stocks to Trade Breaking News for alerting it. And it went from the 5s to the 9s inside of an hour. But aside from that, after that little short squeeze day, down 70%. And now all of the longs and these promoter bots are saying, FINRA fraud. Look at this. One of the market makers who created and had MMTLP trading is on the board of FINRA. It's a big conspiracy and you're getting like thousands of likes. FINRA fraud. Guys, every single promotion has this misinformation, whether it's LTNC or HMBL or ENZC or OZSC or CYDY, or going back to even Sponge Tech years ago. Again, thousands of examples. Whenever one of these promos crash, there's always conspiracy theories. There's always newbies who blame somebody else. If you lost on MMTLP, if you have a long position right now, it's not FINRA's fault. It's not any short seller's fault. It's your fault. You are at fault for not studying. When I have thousands, not just a few, not just a few dozen, not just a few hundred, thousands of examples of what happens with these promos, it's your fault for not studying the past. I am nothing more than a glorified history teacher, okay? You say, oh, Tim, like, you don't even make that much, $4,000. Correct. I trade with a small account. I donate all my trading profits to charity. Why do I mention that? Do I have to look good to mention the charity? No. I want you to understand that I don't profit from this stock going up or down. The reason why I donate all of my trading profits to charity, A, it makes it more meaningful for me. Making $4,000 personally isn't what it once was, because now I've done it so much, but $4,000 goes very far in terms of charity. Secondly, I can be unbiased, because whether I make $4,000 or lose $4,000 or make $40,000 or lose $40,000, it does not impact me personally. All it does is impact my charity, and I want to donate as much as I can. But at the same time, I can be unbiased in my commentary. And what pisses me off, I didn't lose any money on it, but a lot of misguided newbies did, because they think that it's going to 1,000. They think that they're going to get all these shares of the private company, and that, now FINRA has somehow screwed it. Look at this breaking news, FINRA fraud. FINRA determined because of an extraordinary event, because they halted it 2 days before you were supposed to get the spinoff. Guess what? It dropped 70%. Even if FINRA didn't halt it, guess what? It probably would have dropped to the ones or even under one. It's probably still going to do that if they ever reopen it, but now it's all confusing and, it's a mess. You should never hold any stock down 70%, FYI. Not even any stock, not any investment. This goes for NFTs. This goes for crypto. You have this whole promoter brainwashing where you hodl and you think that there's going to be some big payoff in the end and you're going to be rewarded for your loyalty. And it's the dumbest crap every time. And I just hate that so many newbies go down with the ship. I saw a lot of people had a lot of profits on the way up, but because they think they're on this team, because they think that they're going to, be rewarded for thousands of dollars per share, which is what the promoters were spewing, the BS, the propaganda. They hodl, and then they lose 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%, and they tweet about conspiracy theories when in fact it's laziness. And they don't like it when I call them out. If you look at my tweets, I'm like battling all these bots and promoters, and I'm saying, guess what? It's laziness. When there are thousands of examples like this, and people say, oh, Tim, those other companies don't apply. Yes, they do. It's the same promoters every time. It's the same freaking framework every time. This is why I got started teaching. It makes my blood boil when people are just unprepared. And guess what? Some people say, well, Tim, some people are just going to lose. You just have to let it be. No, I don't. I can try to save everybody. I'm like Will Smith in I Am Legend. And if I have to die trying to help you get de-brainwashed from these promoters, so be it. Because it's the same pattern every time. Once I can get that through your brains, you start to see things differently. And you start to say, whoa, wait a minute, it is. No matter what the promoters are hyping. I always link this. Promoters and newbies and bots are always confused when I link this article. This was like a Men's Journal article from like 8 years ago, buying high, how to get rich on pot stocks. And the promoters like to say when I link this article that, I'm confused because I think that the newest promo is a pot stock. No, again, because I don't care whether it's a pot stock, whether it's a COVID stock, whether it's a Chinese pump, whether they have some special dividend. It's all BS. Once you start to understand how corrupt the promoters are and how much brainwashing they do, the sectors, the propaganda, the press releases, the hype, it doesn't matter. It all comes down to the same exact pattern. So I'm going to link the 7-step framework below. I'm going to link that article about the pot stocks, because in the pot stock article, it's interesting. It's not just a good example of a hot sector that, all crashed, but I actually took on the number one weed promoter at the time. And the writer of the article didn't even know that, he was dealing with a promoter. He didn't know that there was another angle to be played. And I had to educate him. Back then I was a short seller and I was short selling the pot stocks. But the writer was conflicted because he wanted the weed promoter, the Wolf of Weed Street, to win. But then he saw me come in with my logic and my, again, thousands of examples. And as it played out directly to a T of the 7-step framework, the writer of the article, like mid-article, shifts his allegiance to me. And this is crazy enough what I have to do. It's okay if you hate me. It's okay if you're skeptical of me. I'm just going to show you what I've learned over the past 20 plus years. And it's not like this works 50% of the time, 60, 70, 80. There's 100% reliability rate with the 7-step framework when there are enough promoters involved. So let me just explain this, because a lot of the promoters say, oh, Sykes, you were part of the promotion. I was never part of the promotion. I don't deal with any promoters. I said, watch MMTLP to see what a short squeeze looks like. This was on November 14th. When I tweeted this is probably like my most popular tweet of like all of 2022. I don't get a lot of retweets because I pretty much say the same thing. And even a lot of my top students are like, annoyed that I keep saying the same thing. They're past the point of me having to repeat this. Like when I told Jack Kellogg that OTCs are hot again, and he's like, you can only make like 5 or 10,000 in a day. And it's funny to me because Jack Kellogg, former valet, who's now at around 11 million, 5 or 10,000 a day is weak for him. And yet I know 99.9% of people watching this would love to make 5 or 10K a day. It's funny to me when my top students get so spoiled because it works so well. But again, there is limited upside. 5 or 10K a day is, near towards the upper end of the potential here for the 7-step framework if you just, go in and out like I like to do. But I tweeted this because it was a perfect short squeeze. I wasn't in on the promotion. I wasn't promoting it. I wasn't a part of the whole thing where they're like, oh, you're going to get, $1,000 per share worth of shares in the new company. I just said it's a short squeeze. Okay. One of my other millionaire students, this guy, Mike Huddy, and he loves to compare charts. And he compared this when MMTLP was breaking out right here. This was the breakout day, by the way. This was when I tweeted, look at the short squeeze. And I had even made a video lesson before. I said, watch $7.60. That's the key breakout level. And on that day, it went from $7.60 to $8.40. And, Huddy tweeted this because it's the same chart as GESI. Promoters, brainwash newbies. What are you talking about? That's a totally different company. It's a totally different sector. It's the same damn chart pattern. You have to be blind not to see it or in denial. But either way, guess what? It's the same thing happening every freaking time. Huddy also continued. There are some more comparisons where, this was GESI, VIHDD, and MMTLP. All are very similar. Let me just show you what happened with GESI. Oh, wait a minute. It crashed. Wait a minute. This had a giant spike right here, and then it crashed. Look at this. In one day, it went from the 10s down to the 4s. The next day, it's in the 2s. Guess what MMTLP just did before it got halted? It's the same damn pattern. It's the same promoters. You have to be blind and stupid not to see it. The difference, GESI was not halted, but guess what? Newsflash, spoiler alert, this is the future for MMTLP. It's the same pattern. Oh, you want to see the one stock that I actually did short? GTII. Oh, wait a minute. Look at this. From the 1s to the 8s. And then in 3 days, it went from the 5s to the 2s. It did bounce. This actually had a better bounce. And then it crashed, and now it's collapsing. It's the same pattern. It's the same promoters. I don't know how to get through to brainwash newbies. Usually, I only get through after they lose big. Like I warned about MMTLP. I said it was a great short squeeze, and I also sold all my remaining shares in the 10s, saying this was, done. these kinds of promos have a limited shelf life. If you want more examples, by the way, just to rub it in, ENZC, I had all the bots and the promoters were angry at me here, where I said, this is a pump chart, it's going to crash. 7-step framework to a T. Oh, you don't like ENZC? Well, how about OZSC? How about that? Oh, look, it's the same pattern. How about CYDY, where there was a whole thesis that I shorted this stock. I never even shorted CYDY. This is a 2-year chart. Here's a 3-year chart. This one, so understand that it's not always the exact same. Sometimes there's like extra bounces depending on if there's like a secondary promo like there was with CYDY. Sometimes there's an extra short squeeze, but it all ends the same. It's like knowing the ending of a book or knowing the ending of a movie, even if like the middle of it might change a little bit. So don't think that it's, exact like to the day, but it's the overall gist of the chart pattern. Even GNUS, I was fighting with all these animators. They said that they were going to create like the Cartoon Network of Netflix. And, I was like, this is a pump pattern. It's going to crash. They're going to dilute it. And all the animators were like, no, Sykes, you don't understand. We're creating a new company here. How dare you traders? You don't create anything. And it's the same exact chart pattern. This is what the 7-step framework is. When you have enough promo, when you have enough press releases all together, this is what happens. So, when people are saying MMTLP, like FINRA is screwing us, look at this, like they're going after the SEC, everyone, it does not get any clearer, sounds like MMTLP. And look at this, like, well said, explain your decision, FINRA. You absolute morons. You're just believing promoters. And again, I don't even know if these are real people. Usually like these most tweeted links are from accounts where it's like Michelle 4775, like they're random numbers. Look at this. Here's Kenny 80252099. They're not even real people, right? Like they're just bots that the promoters are creating. But what they like to do is they like to blame somebody else. And I'll link one more thing underneath this because I think it's interesting where sometimes the promoters lie and they say that I short sell the stock. So I wrote this blog post that I'll link below, how to spot the top of a penny stock pump. And it's when the promoters lie and claim that I'm shorting. Why would they do that? Because they're looking for somebody else to blame. Oh, Sykes shorted it. He's the cause of this. Blame FINRA, blame short sellers, blame anything other than the promoters and the fact that the brainwashed newbies are going down the ship with the promoters. Lately, this promoter, I call him Frank the Tank because all of his promos tank, but he was promoting CLNV, which I was actually buying and dip buying, and I wanted it to bounce. But Frank the Tank was saying that I was shorting it. It's funny because like all my trades are public, my commentary is public. Like you could see that I was going long, but the promoters are so incompetent. He said I was shorting it. And right when he said I was shorting it, I stopped dip buying it because I was like, oh no, I know what's happening. He's trying to make me the bad guy here because whoever paid him is actually liquidating. And so when the promoters lie and they say that I'm shorting or they blame FINRA, it's them and whoever is paying them for the promo, they are liquidating their shares. And when that happens, very rarely do you get any significant bounces. And, CLNV, I think it was this day when he said that I was shorting it. And again, I'm not saying short selling isn't profitable. It is with a lot of these pumps. For me, I just don't like the stress because even when I was short selling, because I show every trade publicly, the promoters could target my short. They know that my rule number one is cut losses quickly, so they could squeeze me out. So my transparency hurts me as a short seller, but that's fine. I just have learned the rules. I've learned the 7-step framework. I've learned when promoters lie about me and claim I'm shorting when there's no evidence and they're just, looking for someone to blame. That's usually the end. Frank the Tank also was promoting COSM. And if you wonder why COSM is tanking, again, I never shorted it, but I was accused of shorting it, even though it's just the promoters and whoever's paying the promoters liquidating it. So that's what's happening with MMTLP. That's what happened with GTII. That's what happened with GESI. That's what's happening with MMTLP. It's the same thing. And whether it drops all in 2 days and gets halted, whether it drops gradually over a month, it all depends on how the insiders and the promoters are liquidating. I don't know, and I don't care how they're doing it. But if you were watching MMTLP on the way down, it was really tough to dip by because there was just such gradual selling the whole time. Like there was like a little bit of a bounce here, but I didn't want to buy it because it looked like such a broken stock. I prefer dip buying plays that are near their highs, right? Like, CLOW has been a good dip buy most of the time in the past few days. Like it had the panic here from 4 down to 2, right back to 4. And then down here to 2, back to 4. And if you look at CLOW, this was a giant run up. This is not a natural run up, in case you didn't realize. It's not like, oh, everyone's discovering CLOW and it's just going up gradually. This is manufactured. So this is why I like penny stocks because it's predictable, but a lot of, money is just lost and wasted and thrown away by newbies who don't realize that they're being advertised to by promoters. And then when I link to blog posts or, video lessons or charts, they're like, you're just promoting yourself. I'm not promoting myself. I'm promoting education. I'm promoting a lack of idiocy. Okay? It's frustrating to me when there's literally thousands of these plays over the years, which I've documented. And, newbies just never learn. Like there's a saying, like there's a new sucker born every minute, and that's what these promoters are doing. And I can reach people after they lose a lot or they lose most, and they're like, oh, shoot, I should have listened to you. I'm not trying to play a game of I told you so. I'm trying to play a game of like, I'll teach you. So whether you learn after you lose all your money, whether you learn after you lose half your money, whether you listen and I can save you before you lose too much. But usually what it takes is losing a big amount, because then it stings and you realize then the value of education and the cost of a lack of education. All these promoters have free, Twitter feeds, free chat rooms, free mailing lists, and they just lure people in. And they think that like I'm the evil guy because I charge money. But the reason why I charge money is because A, it makes people take their education seriously. B, it protects what little sanity I have left. It gets out the riffraff, so I don't have to deal with completely broke people, because broke people are so desperate for money, they make for crappy students. They can't focus on the process because they're trying to like make enough just to pay their rent or, get food. And so they can't be, an unbiased trader, and that hurts them. But also because I make money from teaching. That's where my income comes from. I want you to know that. Promoters make their money not by teaching, not by charging anything for their picks, but because they're getting paid by insiders or other shareholders who pay them to advertise and pump up the stock so that they can dump it on unsuspecting newbies who think that they're all on the same team together. You're not on the same team as the promoters. The promoters are using you. They know that you're too dumb, lazy, unprepared, and naive to ever go after the promoters. Instead, you blame the shorts, you blame FINRA, you blame the market makers, you say that the whole system is corrupt, when in fact, it's just your lack of preparation. And it's the promoters. Once you start to understand how evil and corrupt the promoters are, everything falls into place. When I was exposing this guy, the Wolf of Weed Street, I was getting death threats saying like, you don't want weed to be legal. Like you're evil. Like, I exposed pumps from Shaq and Bieber. I had all these believers messaging me saying like, you want, teenagers to die. Bieber promoted this company that, it was a text message company where it would like, or a mobile phone company where it shut down your phone if you were driving. So it's a good technology to prevent deaths. Unfortunately, it was also a Chinese pump. And I got all the hate. So I'm used to the hate because, again, you're sucked in by these promoters. In MMTLP, I have all the hate, whether it's real people who are losing all their money, whether it's bots, whether it's the promoters creating fake accounts like Carla679243. I'm used to it, but I'm not going to back down because, again, I have thousands of examples, and this is exactly why I teach. So if you did lose on MMTLP and you're still hodling and you think that it's a conspiracy theory with FINRA and the market makers, you're just brainwashed. And whether you realize it on this play or the next play, or maybe 5 plays from now, just remember I tried to warn you, but you were too stubborn and, too new to actually listen. But the cool thing is there will be more pumps. Promoters always will, find some more idiots who just are financially naive. And this same kind of run up is going to happen. And it's going to be beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with buying this. I bought this on this day. I called it a short squeeze on this day, and it was perfect. This was perfect. You can ride these on the way up. I'm not saying never buy them. I'm saying ride the pump, ride the hype, just never believe it. I was very clear here with this tweet. I said, watch to see what a short squeeze looks like. That's it. I knew there were a bunch of shorts. I knew that there were promoters. I saw the technical breakout. And guess what? In just a few days, it went from the 7s to the 12s. I underestimated it. I don't have patience. But I would rather underestimate it and exit too soon than be this gullible, brainwashed newbie who thinks that it's going to 1,000 and then hodl and lose 60, 70, 80, 90%. And now the stock gets halted. And, what do? You got to lock in the profits. You got to learn to be cynical. It's okay to sell too soon. You just don't want to overstay. And to those of you who are short selling, God bless too. I personally don't like it. I think it's too stressful. But as you can see with all these plays, they do drop 70, 80, 90, 100%. So short sellers aren't wrong in the end. You just have to be willing to be patient and, have a lot of, risk and stress levels, which personally I don't like. But long story short, there's so much money to be made if you know the 7-step framework. I'll link the 7-step framework below. If you understand how promoters lie, because there's going to be more of these plays. And it's a beautiful market, like I said, where we're getting more and more big runners. November to May is historically the strongest time in the markets. I'm actually giving a webinar in just a few days on what I'm calling the winter glitch. So I'll link that below. It's a free webinar. You can tune in, you can learn, you can ignore it. I don't care. I'm just going to keep teaching, so do your worst, call me names, study up, become my next millionaire. It's totally up to you. It makes no difference to me whatsoever, whether you listen to my rules, whether you follow these patterns. But I will say, the more you study, the more prepared you are. I find that that's the better that my students do. But I can't study for you, and I can't get you to take this seriously if you don't want to. You're welcome to ignore my rules. You're welcome to, believe that I'm not right. But again, the beauty of being in this for 2+ decades is not cockiness. It's not arrogance. It's experience. We know how this ends. Sometimes they get halted. Sometimes they crash in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Sometimes it takes a month. But it's the same general gist. And if you're a promoter listening to this, hell, I thank you. I thank you for, these predictable patterns that you create. I think, you're going straight to hell. I think that you're really unethical and it's sickening. I don't know how you sleep at night, but again, it's a love-hate relationship. Without the promoters, you wouldn't get such beautifully manufactured run-ups like this. You're never going to stop promoters. There's always going to be new promoters. All you can do is educate yourself and learn how the promos work and pick your spots, whether you like dip buying morning panics, whether you like hodling for days or weeks or months while the promo is on. But again, you just don't want to be there towards the end because it can get really ugly really quickly. And as solid as these companies look, as solid as their charts look on the way up, it's all a mirage and it all disappears over time. And then you can either be angry or you can be prepared and, learn how this stuff works. That's up to you. Leave a comment below. I am curious whether you like going long, the 1, 2, 3 of the pattern, if you like shorting the number 4, if you like dip buying the number 5, or shorting the 6 or the 7, or, trading multiple numbers from the 7-step framework. It's totally whatever works for you. Don't feel bad if there's one number that you like and there's another number that you don't like. If I've learned anything over the years, it's to be more open-minded and that people learn in so many different ways. But I'm just grateful for every last promo, every last opportunity to teach. I am sorry if, you don't realize what's going on and you go down with the ship. I don't enjoy seeing people lose, but on the flip side, if you do lose a little or lose a lot or lose everything, hopefully you remember the lesson, because losses are not the end of the world, especially if you follow my rule number 1 and cut losses quickly. But if you have a big loss and you don't adapt, like let's say you went long GTII and you hodled and now it's getting crushed and you didn't learn and you didn't change, and now the same thing is happening with MMTLP, that's a problem. If you do have a big loss, if you do recognize your screw up, adapt. Learn what not to do. And in fact, if you want to look at the journeys of pretty much all of my 30 plus millionaire students, and I've got like 100 or 150 students who are, closing in on $1 million now, which is pretty cool. But if you look at all their journeys, there's usually 1 or 2 big losses early on, whether, a big loss to them is 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000. Everyone at different points loses big. But that big loss really helps people create better risk management. And, losses, while they're nasty, they're also like the best educators. Once upon a time, I lost $500,000 of my own money in Cygnus e-transactions, lost all my industry credibility. I've never had a loss that big again. That was 15, 16 years ago. And I still remember it. So if you ever do go down with the ship on any of these plays, learn from it. Vow to yourself that you will never let that happen. You will never trust a promoter. You will never trust a company again. You will learn to cut losses quickly. You'll learn to be more like a sniper. You don't have to go down with the ship, okay? Just because you think that like your shady Discord chat room, everyone's involved in it. FYI, you see all these people on Twitter and you see all these people in these chat rooms. It could just be 1 or 2 promoters with like a bot army. And they hire all these people in Bangladesh for like 1 cent per like. Like some people say, oh, Tim, if you're so good, why do you have so few retweets and likes? Because I don't care about Twitter. I'm not buying fake likes or retweets. And again, like I say the same thing over and over again. Ask any of my millionaire students. They're so tired of me saying this. They don't even watch my videos anymore. I'm just training wheels to get you to have the right mindset. And once you have the right mindset and then you go off on your own and you find what patterns work best for you, it's a beautiful thing. And that's, the job of a teacher. I'm not in this for retweets or likes or, some people are like, I used to respect you. I'm not in this for respect. You can respect me. You can disrespect me. I don't care. Just learn from these patterns. It's embarrassing when I have to repeat myself hundreds, if not thousands of times. It's embarrassing for you and your family to throw away hard-earned money due to lack of preparation. If you got brainwashed by a promoter, admit it. Cop to it. We're all there some point. I was there one point, and you learn what not to do. And, maybe you've already learned what not to do. Maybe you did profit on MMTLP or GTII or GESI because now you know how these patterns play out. Fantastic. But just, realize everyone starts somewhere. So even if you have a small account, even if you missed these plays, even if you lost, it's all part of the journey. And the sooner I can get you understanding that these patterns repeat, well, it might not be an exact science, it's pretty damn close, then you can be better prepared for the next one, in the next one. And, as we see more and more supernovas in this, frankly, more impressively growing market with more and more plays lately, all you can try to do is try to do better on the next one. And then you put together a string of a few trades and it feels really good because we will see more supernovas like this in the coming days and weeks. The question is, will you be prepared? So hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Again, be safe and click some links below. I'll link a whole bunch of free stuff so that you can study and see that I'm right. It's kind of crazy. Thanks.